Hey, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS Fantasy NASCAR Picks. I'm Schmegler 31. Apologize, I couldn't get a truck video out. I was sick earlier, like last week and early into this week. I'm fine now, but it's just residual stuff. I had like no voice, but I think I'm back better this morning. So let's get into it before it runs out. Um, Texas Motor Speedway, intermediate track. Nice to kind of go back to that. And we have 200 laps, so about 125 dominator points up for grabs here. So a little bit not as much as like the shorter tracks, but there's enough to consider. And we definitely have some potential for a bunch of different people to dominate and lead this race. Allgaier did it mostly last year, but we'll see what happens this year. So starting at top, we got Jesse Love on the pole, amazing rookie season, and can get out there and lead, definitely. We'll see what happens with that. It definitely, we learned from the truck race and from practice and qualifying that turn two is very treacherous here. And that if you get too high up, you get in like gravel or dust or sand or whatever, it can take you right into the wall and spin you out. So it's definitely preferred to be on the lower line. So I think Love definitely has an advantage here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Custard, who's starting right next to him, gets past him and out and leads early. Although I think they said that a Toyota or a Ford has not won this race since, or maybe that was in the truck race. Ford hadn't won there since like 2000, Greg Biffle. So, but anyways, I think definitely the Chevys, Junior Motorsports owned this last year, pretty much in 1.5 mile tracks, and Gibbs cars have just been great this year. So where does that leave Childress and Haas? Kind of fighting for the lead early, but probably not hanging on to it very long. So I think both are in play. I think you need to figure out which one you want to be the early dom, and that's going to definitely tailor your build just because Love is what 2,300 deeper than Custer. Speaking of Taylor Gray, I had a good truck series race and now is up here in this Joe Gibbs car, ton of potential. And I think he's another upside dominator. I don't know if he get leads lap. I think he can probably have a strong enough car and good enough talent to finish in the top 10, maybe the top five. A little bit risky. Think of more of a GPP play here. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets out there and leads. But I said same thing about Chase Elliott last week. Wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think that it's the most likely outcome. Chandler Smith, his teammate, I really like this one here, even though he starts on the high line. And number four, I think he can eventually get up there and take the lead. Very strong car, very fast car. And the guys that are in gold here, and I forgot about this last week, and I apologize, are the ones who are dash for cash. So there's a little extra incentive. I think they win like 100,000 extra dollars if they finish ahead of the other drivers. And Almond or no, who did it last week? It was Almirola was racing for it, but he's not racing this week. So, but these are the ones that qualify for it. So a little bit of extra incentive for Chandler Smith too, but he's been pretty fast and pretty good. And I think he's definitely has a solid team, solid car, and probably between he and Allgaier are the ones to beat. Herbst kind of sandwiched in the middle here. I think he's GPP. I don't see him leading laps here. I think he's has a strong season, but he doesn't. He qualifies decent sometimes, but then like falls back. So I don't really. I think I'm sitting him on the bench this week. I don't think I'm playing much Herbst. Allgaier, again, you have some nice place differential baked here with like 5 points. Probably would get out there. I wouldn't be surprised if he leads part of the race, most of the race, gets out there. If it changes on and off between Smith and Allgaier after it's either Love or Custer early. So I think you want to try to, if you can get both in your lineup, I'm going with Chandler Smith as the prime play. But if you can work Allgaier in also, I think that's definitely beneficial. Ryan Truex is kind of a sleeper here in the Joe Gibbs. He runs more like uh super speedways than the mile and a half, but he has run mile and a half before. So again, it's a decent car, and he and I think Taylor Green's in this also, but I think it affects Truex even more. They're not going for stage points; they're just going for the win, so that gives them an advantage to pit for track position early. and change up their strategy because they're just going for the trophy and not stage points. So that I definitely factor, but I still think it's more of a GPP play. Almond Digger, GPP, I don't see him leading at any point. I don't see him as a dominator. Collie hasn't had a strong season, so probably I don't even know if he finishes in the top 10 here, so I'm not too excited about him. Sammy Smith and their dark horse here with some upside. Definitely could get up there and lead the race. Like I said, the junior cars have been solid here. So someone would definitely place differential and potential leads. So 93, I like that. Might be priced in no man's land, but if you can get to it, I think that's a solid play if you're not trying to go three kings, which is trying to get three drivers above 10K in. I think he's a nice prince. Sammy Smith, same thing. GPP has had an abysmal start to the season. It's getting better in recent form here. Still GPP play, I think, but he's in the dash for cash, so it's an extra incentive for him. So maybe he drives well a little bit more conservative and less aggressive to be able to stay into the race at the end to make a play to try to win that money. So GPP, but I think he's more borderline GPP cash. I don't think I see him as a dominator, but I think he's definitely in play. But again, priced in kind of no man's land, but a nice little pivot off of the 10, 11K guys if you want somebody with a little bit more place or differential with some potential. Brandon Jones had the pole last week, ended up have started in the back, but he did get up there and lead the race. So I think there's a lot of potential here, but I really just don't think this is a great track for him. So it's going to be GPP. Anthony Alfredo, fade for me. I don't see him hanging in the top 15. 6,300. I'd rather it's kind of a dead range here. I'd rather pay 200 more if I can get Jeff Burton than him, who looks much better and is has more solid floor and place differential upside. So not probably playing Daniel Fredo. Austin Hill, Childress cars haven't been great at these tracks unless they've been like up front. So I don't know if he's one that's going to be able to maneuver through traffic and advance his position. And at 10-5, I really need him to do that. So he's going to be GPP for me. I don't I think he's going to have a good day. I don't think he's going to have a great day. Ryan Sieg, like this play here. He's looked really good in practice, like really didn't do much in changing up the car at all, which means he was probably pretty satisfied with it. So I'm pretty happy with that too at 7,800. Again, probably in no man's land. You're probably going to try to get all these expensive drivers in there and end up in the 4 and 5K range. But if you can get him as like the mid-range driver to fill in, I kind of like that strategy. It gives you a little bit of balance and a little bit of more floor. Sheldon Creed, I think that he's also racing for this, and I have him as an upside dominator, but I think he potentially could be a cash play here. And another option to go with a three king lineup that's a little bit cheaper, coming down from like Custard, coming down from like Smith or Allgaier if you're building that way. So definitely, if you're doing 20 max, you need to consider Creed in there as one of the dominators potentially. And I think it would be very popular just with the place differential. Having a Joe Gibbs car being a dash for cash, I think he'll be possibly top three in ownership. Parker Klingerman and Corey Heim, I think, are both solid plays here. Klingerman also has more experience, but Heim did look really good in the truck race and has a really good car here. So I think either one of them, if you end up in this 8K range, and maybe it's a pivot down a little bit from Jesse Love if you need a couple hundred extra more dollars. If you don't love as like the early dominator, then maybe it'll save you enough to get you someplace that you want to be. Clements didn't run many laps in practice, and I don't think it's because he was good with the car. I think they had a lot of work to do with the car. So I know he qualified 18th, but I think he's going backwards, so it's fade for me. Weatherman's starting a little bit too far forward, like I'm 25th on back, GPP. Haley Deegan, same story. I think should be okay here. Price is decent at 57, but I think she could fall down 5 places also. Jeb Burton, as I previously discussed in the 6K range, I think is a solid play here. Has some floor, looked good. I think he can finish around where he starts, and that's just great at 6,500. Josh Williams, Again, he's better at the short tracks. I don't know how great he is on intermediate. Can he advance a little bit? Yeah, I think he's a GPP. Does he have as much floor as Burton? I just you're saving $300 for a little bit of a better play there. So I'm not saying Josh Williams is a bad play, but I just don't think this is the week that I really want him in my cash lineup. And if I land him GPP, that's fine, but I'm not making priority by any means. Kelsey, I think he's starting a little too far forward here. C cards have been solid, but he hasn't been like too aggressive of a driver, and I think he gets passed by quite a few cars, so moves down. Daniel Dye. I think people are going to disagree with me this because he's a colleague car and they don't really see the upside here. But he raced his tail off in the truck race last night, and he was up there competing with like Bush and Zane Smith and Corey Heim and Eckes and like some of the big guns up there and holding his own and ran a really good race. So I think there's a lot of potential. Obviously understands this track. So 24th place at 6,600. I think again is has a little bit more place differential and floor than Jet Burton, even though Jet Burton's like a more established driver. But I think Daniel Dye has a lot of upside here, so I'll consider him in cash and try to get him in a couple lineups. Cool. I think his cash play here. These Alpha Prime cars have been solid. Yes, it scares me. He could lose 13 place differential points, but at 5,500, it's really not killing you as much as if one of your 10K drivers did all the way up top. Blaine Perkins, I think it's a fade starting too far forward for me. Matt DiBenedetto, I'm making him the other prime play here at 6,900. And again, if you can't get to this price range, that's fine. But I'm just making it a priority just so I'm not playing stars and scrubs to try to get Matt DiBenedetto in here. He looked good in his like last couple of races that he's come back to Xfinity Series. He's settling in with his team, starting to get some chemistry, knows the track, has lots of experience here, and is not a 27th place car. I think he can definitely get up into the top 20, probably 10 place differential points to 6,900. That is awesome. I absolutely love it. So I think he is where I want to make my second prime play. Josh Bilicki started a little too far forward, fade for me. Parker Retzloff, 75. Price is a little steep, but there's a lot of place differential upside. I think he finished like 15th here last year in the fall. So I think there's definitely some upside for him. Decent team, decent young driver, and I think he should be able to pass some cars to move on up. Emmerling, SNS Greenlight. He's not in the Emmerling Gase car, which is kind of weird because I think he's part of the ownership of the team, but he's driving for another team, which is perfectly fine. Maybe he's earning some money from this team for his other team because they only have one car in the field. But the green light cars have been okay, so I think you can play them as GPP. Honeyman, I debated Honeyman and Ellis as the third prime play, so he's just started a little bit further forward than Ryan Ellis, so that's why I gave it to Ellis. But if you need to drop down $300, then Honeyman can be your third prime play over Ellis. I think they're interchangeable. I just took the more floor and point differential potential of Ellis over Honeyman. Smithley is a fade. JD's cars I'm not too enamored with. I think Shane Van Ginsburg was very popular down here and maybe probably top five in ownership just because people recognize the name. He's had a solid season, but I don't think he really knows much about this track. I think he advances, but I don't think he advances as far as people think he will. And to take a quote from Ankrum last night after he had a start in the back with a backup truck, and then I think we found like the fourth worst driver. Like I've always put Harrison Burton and Drew Dollar and Joe Graff Jr., who we haven't seen this year, in like the same category. I'm throwing Thad Moffitt in there. I know they were making excuses us on the broke or something, but I don't know what that boy did. But he took out Ankrum. Ankrum said when you're back in the pack, sometimes you know you're a squirrel and you get your nuts crushed. Um, and that's exactly what happened to him. So I kind of fear that with Shane Van Gisbergen being back here with some of these drivers with that turn two. And like if things happened earlier, further up in the pack, then the reaction time to be able to, or somebody comes down on him. I just, again, I think I'm okay taking shots on 4 and 5K guys down here. And Rasloff, I think, is far enough ahead to get out of it. But Shane Ginsburg, I think you play in cash, but I don't think I can make him a poor play down here. Lawson Cram, he's seen good in the last couple of weeks. The car is just what I questioned. So GPP for me. Chad Fincham, NBM. This car hardly ever qualifies. So could it be a start in park? I always fear that with the 66. So fade, not even touching it. Right now, like I said, Alpha Prime cars have been solid and decent. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. Take a quick drink here. So I think he's fine. And again, if you need Honeyman, then either one of them could be the final prime play here, or maybe use them both if you're trying to pay up as for a punt. Joey Gase to the fade. Emily Gase car I don't really like. They probably going to finish 35th, 36th, 37th, 38th. Really no place differential I see there. And David Starr, I normally say no, but he knows his track really well. I don't know if he's from Texas, but he's got a lot of experience on his track and drives his track well for someone that's a driver in a lesser team and a lesser car. So, and he's got no place to go but up. Plus, he starts with 2 points automatically off the bat. So, there's a little bit of floor there. So GPP for me, not in cash, but I think he's in play if you need him. So I got. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up, Megaro31 on Twitter/X. For more information on FSi DFS, you can go to the description of the video and our pricing package for everything. $5 for the weekend for NASCAR. Really cheap, $3 for the day, and $6 to do all sports for just the one day. So we got a lot going on today. We got soccer, we got baseball, we got NBA and hockey wrapping up, and we've got NASCAR. So lots of different options there for you for $6. So these videos help us back. Subscribe to our channel, like the videos, and share with your friends. So I'm gonna hop off here so I can get this posted. Heading up to Syracuse today, visit my parents, and then I'll be back tonight for the Cup video. So good luck in your contest. Have a great day. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, and I'll see you next time.